into really tomorrow morning, but wanted to come in, give you another little breakdown of what we can expect tonight, what those coldest temperatures are looking like overnight, dangerous wind chills, extreme cold warnings, things of that nature. So we'll give it just a few minutes here, and we'll get started here more fully, and this will give me a chance to make sure everything's working properly back here behind the scenes, but we'll give it just a few seconds and we'll get started. But what I will do is spin our camera around and we'll take a look at those conditions outside, which really for the most part is just quiet and cold. That's how we can break down tonight's forecast, is into those two words. So as you're tuning in, certainly let us know where you're tuning in from, and as always, if you have any comments or questions about the forecast for our area, feel free to ask those, and I'll keep an eye on the chat, the live chat through this. So we still have the Arctic air in place. This is what's going to keep us quite cold for tonight, though I do have a little bit of good news. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We've been in this period of well below average conditions, really, other than a day or two here and there, since the middle of January, and we will finally see a slightly warmer period of weather. It's going to be closer to average, maybe just like 1 to 3 degrees above average, but that will be coming from this weekend into early next week. So here's a rough breakdown of really all the things that we'll go through, what we're tracking, not only for tonight's weather alert day, but also for the look ahead for our next weather makers for Thursday and Friday, and then into the weekend and next week. So main story for tonight, the bitter cold, dangerous wind chills. Those are going to be sticking around across all of western Montana. Then we get into tomorrow afternoon, and continuing through the day on Friday, we're going to see some Pacific moisture moving in. This is going to bring widespread light to occasionally moderate snow to the area. It will be a little bit more scattered in nature, but likely most of the region will see some of that snowfall. And then we'll see a little break into Saturday, Sunday into Monday. Here comes storm system number 2. With that, we're going to continue to see that warming trend, and likely a third system that arrives sometime for the middle parts of next week. Overall, I think the majority of western Montana, even with the warming, will stay as snow, but there are some valley areas that may have to deal with some freezing rain, or at best, the melting of the roads and a potential refreeze overnight with cold temperatures into the morning hours. So those are really our key takeaways. So let's jump right into what those current conditions are like right now. Dylan is not recording. That's one I'll have to keep an eye on later on tonight. But Sealy Lake, we're at 8, 3 below in Greeno, 5 in Lincoln, 1 below at Big Hole Pass. And really, southwest Montana is where we're seeing some of those coldest conditions, but even Ronan at 1 below right now, Sula at 3, Georgetown Lake 3 below, 4 below in Wise River, and 2 below down in Whitehall. And really, that's a pretty good indicator of what we're seeing for those conditions across much of western Montana. One of our more mild spots, Kalispell, still hanging on to 11 degrees. We're down to 6 in Missoula. But take a look at Butte and Bozeman, 9 below and 14 below already. And again, it's only 7:15, so we still have hours of time to see those temperatures continue to plummet. And Butte, I'll have to keep an eye on that. That's a little faster than I was expecting those temperatures to fall, so we may have to make a little adjustment to those low temperatures depending on if this rate of cooling continues. And one thing I guess I should have mentioned beforehand, let me jump back to that real quick. Wind chills are also going to be a bigger factor tonight. We will see a little disturbance moving in. That's going to start to pick up those winds just a little bit. They may only be maybe 5 to 10 miles per hour at tops, but that can make these types of conditions, say you had a wind chill or winds up to 10 miles per hour, you could be looking at wind chills in the 20s below zero, and when you get temperatures in the 20s below zero, that could be closer to 30 to 40 degrees below zero. So it may not be the strongest wind in the world, but the wind chill is going to be downright brutal overnight tonight. Now, looking at the air temperatures, this is just what we can expect for those air temperatures tonight. 3 below in Libby, 4 below Thompson Falls, likely our more mild locations. Kalispell, Polson, Hamilton, Missoula, between 7 and 9 degrees below zero. And then we get to areas near and east of the divide, and that's where those temperatures will plummet even more. Sealy Lake, 18 below. Butte, 20 below. That's why I might have to adjust that down if that trend of cooling, where we're already at 14 below, continues. 21 below for Dillon, 27 below in Bozeman, and 34 below in West Yellowstone. A big reason for that, clear skies and relatively light winds are going to allow that cold air to really just sit in place and just cool even more so overnight. Then we look at the wind chill potential and take a look at these. Butte, Bozeman, 30 to 40 degrees below zero as you're getting out the door tomorrow morning. So make sure to bundle up. That's the biggest thing I can say, is to, of course, limit the time outdoors. I've said that all week with these cold temperatures, but limit the time outside. And if you do have to be out, make sure to layer up, cover the face and fingers, but also make sure, maybe check on your elderly neighbors. Make sure they are still doing okay through the cold. Again, I know it's Montana. We're used to this type of cold, but it is on the extreme side right now. So it's always good to be a good neighbor and make sure that everybody's doing okay with these types of conditions. They've got everything that they need. So the good news, again, if you're just tuning in, this is the last night of this brutal, bitter Arctic air. I'll keep adding adjectives to that, but we will see some improvement. Again, I know we had just a few people in when I first started, so I'll just jump in real quick. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to ask those. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat section to be able to answer those. And then, of course, certainly let us know where you're tuning in from. And feel free to share this YouTube live so we can get the information out to as many people as we can. So with that little pause there, let's get right back into this update. So bitter cold air, that is the big story. We're even in areas where we aren't in that 25 to 30 degree below, even 40 degree below zero wind chill. We're still looking at 10 to 20 degree below zero wind chills tomorrow morning for places like Kalispell and Missoula. So it's going to be cold area wide. Our cold weather advisories and extreme cold warnings match that really from the US 93 corridor and back to the east is where we see those. Places like Thompson Falls, Trout Creek, Noxon, Libby, Troy, not included in these cold weather advisories, but even back up here towards Troy and Libby, you see just across into the Idaho Panhandle, they're right back. So it kind of gives you the sense that we're not quite to the criteria in these areas, but we're not very far off. And then we get into southwest Montana with those extreme cold warnings. So this includes places like Wisdom, back over towards Dillon, Lima, Ennis, West Yellowstone, Bozeman, and really the Interstate 90 corridor from Bozeman back over to about the Pipestone, Homestake Pass area. The name of the pass escaped me there for a minute. But yeah, back across over towards Homestake Pass, so Cardwell, Whitehall all included, likely looking at the same conditions towards Townsend and Toston up further north of Three Forks. And the driver for all of this is this large trough of low pressure, and that, with how deep it is all the way into the Texas Panhandle, that's why the cold air has been stuck in place for so long. And cold air is hard to budge, especially when it gets entrenched down in lower elevation valleys with the mountains around it. That helps to build those inversions even stronger. But you notice back off to the west, and here comes our next storm system. That is going to be bringing us some big changes to our weather. This is going to be associated with the first one, but you notice this big plume of moisture. Parts of California could get some big time rains, some heavy snow up in the mountains. This is transitioning into another atmospheric river. One thing with this storm system, though, is compared to our last major winter storm, the track of this plume of moisture is going to be more across this zone. We're just going to be getting a glancing blow from it in comparison to this full trough of low pressure sliding right into western Montana. So most of this energy heading across towards southern Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah, and then eventually through the Four Corners region and then across the country. But we'll get the northern sides of this, and that's what's going to bring us the chance for some more precipitation. We do have the chance for a little bit of light snowfall. I've added a 20% chance in for really for the afternoon. But one note, tomorrow morning, and this is also for overnight tonight, and I'll spin this around because I don't have a graphic to show this, there could be a narrow band of lake effect snow that develops on Flathead Lake. So parts of US 93 and the Highway 35 corridor. If this were to develop, and that's still a big if, just be prepared for some variable road conditions, maybe some lighter accumulations of snow in that narrow band. But again, we're just going to have to watch and see if that were to actually develop. Now, as for the afternoon, that's where we'll see a better chance of snowfall, especially starting off for areas of southwest Montana and then lifting into the I-90 corridor. Then we get into Friday, and the majority of that moisture moves in with that next system. Scattered snow showers throughout the day on Friday. A little ridge of high pressure builds in for Saturday, dropping those precipitation chances, those snow chances to be more specific, down to about 10%, though the mountains in northwest Montana may still be dealing with some light snow through this period. So if you're going and skiing places like Whitefish, Blacktail, Lookout Pass, you might see a little bit of light snow throughout the day on Saturday. Otherwise, cloudy skies are going to be common. And then Sunday, Monday, and likely into Tuesday and maybe even Wednesday, we'll see that second and third round of moisture move through. I think for the most part, that should stay as mostly snow for the region, but in some of our valley areas, that wintry mix will be possible. So let's go into Future Tracker, and I'll just slowly go through this. This is looking into starting at midday tomorrow. We're going to see clouds increasing across southwest Montana, and here comes that first potential of a little bit of light snow, likely south of Interstate 90 up until about 5 o'clock. That's going to be that window where it moves into the I-90 corridor. I don't think there's going to be too much in the way of impact with this, but we could see a brief dusting, maybe up to a half an inch with this as things look like right now, but that certainly could change into tomorrow morning. This will continue northward, likely getting in towards the Flathead and Mission Valleys through the evening and into the overnight period. Some forecasts earlier this week were showing this band of snow hanging on in northwest Montana. The more recent model runs have actually shown this band of snow essentially falling apart. That said, we could still be looking at some gusty winds up across the West Glacier region and along the Divide that could lead to some blowing snow, not only for Friday night, but also into tomorrow morning as well. So places like West Glacier, Bad Rock Canyon area, don't be surprised if you have a little bit of blowing snow from some of those increased winds. And of course, wind chills will be even colder because of that. We see a little bit of a break into Friday morning, but it's just brief, and it may not even actually take place. You see more of those scattered snow showers build area-wide, and I think by Friday morning, from really the morning commute on through the day, we're going to be looking at scattered light to occasionally moderate snow showers for all of western Montana. This particular model run a little bit more focused down here towards Bozeman, West Yellowstone, Big Sky area, even towards Livingston, and east from there, but also the mountains along the Montana-Idaho state line here in west central Montana, back towards the Missoula area. And we'll see those snow showers through the day. If you have any travel plans to take you over the passes, be prepared for some slick conditions this weekend, especially for Friday, and then again on Sunday into Monday. As you see, those scattered snow showers continue through Saturday morning, but notice in general, from west to east, we will see a diminishment in the amount of coverage. Bozeman, we're still looking at least some light snowfall into Saturday morning, say 8 to 9 o'clock. And by the afternoon, while we could still be looking at some light snowfall up in our higher elevations as this particular model is picking out, overall, cloudy skies are going to be the norm for the afternoon. That's going to be a short-lived break before the next storm rolls in. But before we get to that next one, here's a rough look at what we could expect for snowfall totals. I think most valley areas, we're talking less than 2 inches, but some isolated higher totals in that 2 to 3 inch range certainly can't be ruled out. Missoula, Seeley Lake, Butte, up towards Kalispell, I think, again, most areas less than 2 inches. Bozeman is one exception in this. We've seen some forecast models picking up anywhere from about 2 to 6 inches towards Bozeman, so that'll be one area we have to keep a little bit closer eye on. This particular model run even heavier at 4 to 8. I think it might be just a hair overdone, so really not expecting a ton of impacts from this. Like I said, minor impacts are expected, especially over the mountain passes, but in our valleys, it's just going to be kind of a watch and see. But again, key takeaway, most areas less than 2 inches in our valleys, and I'll get the pass numbers coming up here now. Let's see, I want that to stop right here, and this is getting into Saturday morning. And I think for most of our passes, we're talking in that range of about 2 to 6 inches of snow. As you can see, Lookout, Lolo, Homestake Pass, looking at that kind of zone for heavy snowfall. Same thing back here towards Bozeman Pass, where we are seeing in Future Tracker a little bit more enhancement to the snowfall. So I think those are our main areas, especially Lookout, Lolo, and Bozeman passes for that 2 to 6 inch range. Probably more in that 1 to 4 inch range for most of our other passes with this particular storm system. But this is only one of at least 2, if not 3. And we can see this starting to take shape. Let me get this a little bit further up. That's into Saturday morning early. We clear out, but you notice as we get into the afternoon, and this is just off screen, but this is showing about 7:30 on Saturday evening, continuing this forward, starting to see some light snow showers, northwest, west central Montana areas along the state line. This is into early Sunday morning, about 2 to 3 a.m. And that'll continue to spread west to east. But this is a slightly warmer system, but because of the cold air that's held on and been in place the last few days, models have actually trended down with our temperatures. So this is one thing that's going to certainly be something we have to keep a very close eye on. I think for Sunday into Monday, or Sunday afternoon through Monday especially, you see that pink starting to show up. If you tuned in yesterday, you noticed there was more green and pink showing up from Kalispell through the Mission Valley into the Missoula and Bitterroot valleys. That was the model essentially picking up on more in the way of warm air down at the surface, temperatures above freezing, transitioning the snow over to rain. But with the cold surface temperatures, just like we had a few weeks ago, we could see that moisture still freeze on contact down on the ground because the subsurface temperatures in many areas are in the low 20s. So freezing rain still is going to be a concern, but I think that has dropped a little bit in comparison to what it was yesterday, just because the cold air is looking to hang on a little bit longer, and we may keep it as snow throughout almost the entire column of the atmosphere. We're still a couple of days away from it. So I guess the key takeaway is be prepared for mountain snow, and for our valleys, that mix of rain, snow, and potentially freezing rain. But one area that is most concerning for freezing rain, where we may get more of that warm air from the south, and you can see this right here in this pink shade, the southern Bitterroot Valley. So places like Victor, Hamilton, south towards Darby, Sula, the Connor area, and up, as you're heading up towards Lost Trail Pass, we could be looking at a bit higher likelihood of freezing rain. We'll have to see if that trend holds or if the cold air looks to win out even more than what it is now, and then that freezing rain issue may essentially be a non-issue. But still too far out to say for certain with that. Monday, we could be looking at the same type of question marks. We see those temperatures in the mid-30s from Kalispell down to Missoula and down into Salmon, Idaho. But much colder air hanging on to areas east of the Divide, teens and 20s for Havre, Great Falls, Billings, and east from there. Well, here's another look. This is into Monday afternoon and evening. Another chance for the freezing rain to show up there towards the southern Bitterroot. And then we likely transition back over to snow into Tuesday and maybe even into Wednesday as well, as that system begins to pull out. Just a few spotty showers. But then we'll have to keep an eye on this next disturbance that may try and work in Wednesday into Thursday. Some models are bringing it in, other models are not. Again, this is looking a week out, so we have plenty of time to watch this one as well. I'd say models are about split 50-50 on whether that third piece of energy rolls into our area or if it tracks further south, as a lot of the forecast models are trending that direction. So just one of those. We'll just kind of have to watch and see that one as well, but we have plenty of time to do that. So That is the last graphic that I had. I will bring this back up to the very front and just kind of do another little quick recap. But this is sort of the, as I start wrapping this up, last call. If you have any questions about this storm system or even what we can expect heading on into the weekend, I'll certainly answer those. If you have any, feel free to share the YouTube live so we can get as many people prepared for the cold tonight, even though we've already been dealing with it for the last couple of days, but also that next storm ahead. And let me spin this back around. And here are those headlines one more time. Tonight through Thursday morning, we're looking at bitter cold air temperatures with dangerous wind chills. So air temperatures ranging anywhere from the single digits below zero, maybe to as cold as about 30 degrees below zero in southwest Montana. West Yellowstone could be closer to 35 degrees below zero tonight. And then those wind chills could range anywhere from, say, 15 to 40 degrees below zero. A little bit more mild. I'll put that in quotes because it's not going to be mild by any terms, but in comparison, further back off into northwest Montana, and then that coldest air is going to hang on to areas along and south of Interstate 90 in southwest Montana. We'll see warming throughout the day, a little bit more readily than we've seen in recent days as we get some of that Pacific moisture in here that will kind of override the Arctic air in place. Still going to be below average for Thursday and Friday with widespread snow in place, but then we get into the weekend and next week we'll see storm systems 2 and potentially 3 with even more warming for President's Day Monday, but also the snow for Valentine's Day. It might be a great way to spend Valentine's Day night with some snowfall. But then we'll see that potential for freezing rain, though again, I think that is on at least a lower level than what we were looking at, say, this time yesterday. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that one. But be prepared. Travel impacts are likely this weekend, especially over our mountain passes. We could be talking anywhere from, say, 2 to 6 inches of snow. Look out Lolo, Bozeman passes especially, but even for places like Homestake, Lost Trail, we might see some of that as well. Down in our valleys for snowfall, at least through Saturday, most areas less than 2 inches. Some localized heavier totals here and there certainly are possible as things look like right now. That can certainly change. Snowfall can be a little bit fickle when it comes to getting those totals at least squared down or at least closer to what ends up actually happening. Bozeman is one area that could see some slightly higher snowfall totals with that first system. And then we'll get, as we go throughout the end of this week and into the weekend, we'll have a better idea of what we can expect with those second and third waves. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. If you have any photos or videos of the cold, the snow, any of those, feel free to share those with us at NBCMontana.com/chime in. Tune into our live broadcast at 10 o'clock tonight. And then certainly for tomorrow morning, join Chief Meteorologist Brooke Foster and Jason Hurst on NBC Montana Today starting at 5 o'clock, and that'll be in your period when you're getting into those coldest temperatures. Really, that usually occurs from about 6 to 8 a.m. in the morning. So have a great evening, stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you all on the next one. Likely we'll be doing another one of these tomorrow evening, and feel free to share this with your friends and family. Have a great evening with NBC Montana. I'm Meteorologist Mitchel Coombs.